Mike, hi.
How are you?
I'm very well. It's very nice to meet you. I've been really looking forward to this.
Lovely to meet you too. Me too. Me too.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, Mike, you are the founder and CEO of Bitstocks.
Indeed, I am.
You clever lad. Can you just tell us a little bit about Bitstocks and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So Bitstocks was originally incorporated way back in April 2014, so very early to the party. And we founded predominantly as an educational house to help demystify this space for your average individual, predominantly investors. And we set up an advisory investment firm that specialized in managing the process of Bitcoin investment and allowing our investors to be armchair investors and managing that whole process. And what we are today is we've actually surrendered our management side of the business, and now we've built a self-management tool with Gravity, and that is going to be the bank of the future that you can experience very soon. And it kind of encapsulates this whole digital goods conversation, this whole big NFT boom, etc. right now. So the conversation matter about what is money has changed, and we've been ready for it and getting ready for it for some years.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about Gravity, because I just saw that on the Bitstocks website. What will that enable people to do?
Okay, so the ethos behind Gravity is that we now need to deliver this technology in a way that is not nerdy and that your average person on the street can use. So what Gravity is today is the best place to buy and sell Bitcoin in the UK and Europe. We've had industry-leading custody solution. We've been running, knocking on the door of 7 years. We've never been breached, which is incredible in comparison to our competitors. And now we're really pushing that to the next level. So what Gravity ultimately is going to become towards the back end of the year is a Monzo-like service. So you have debit cards, etc., personal accounts. However, you'll be able to verify that we have your money. So gone are the days where opaque banking and not knowing if Barclays is truly good for your money until it's too late, like the Northern Rock scenario. You can actually press a button, verify that Gravity has, say, £10,000 of my money. And it really is a technical gauntlet being laid down in the world of banking and finance to say, look, we can prove and validate that we are solvent and our assets and liabilities balance out and we are solvent, which now will give the community and individuals all around the world an opportunity to vote with their feet and choose an institution that can validate and verify that they are solvent. We don't need to trust, we can verify.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point that now more than ever, I think people really do want things to be verified, don't they? Like consumer confidence is just such an important matter at the moment. And I think you said in
all-time low, really.
yeah, you said in the past, that confidence in the government is at an all-time low. Confidence in fiat currency is at an all-time low. When the COVID crisis first hit us in the face, people were saying, oh, it's going to be a completely cashless society. Fiat currency is not going to exist anymore. Do you think that this has largely contributed to this current Bitcoin bull run? Because today I live in Spain, I've looked at it, it's like 47,500 euros for one Bitcoin. I mean, I don't know how much it was when you started out, but certainly nothing close to that. Did you anticipate that? Do you think that it will continue, or do you think that when we come out of this crisis, consumer confidence in fiat currency and indeed the government will be restored and things will start to balance out again for cryptocurrency?
So there's a yes and a no in my response to that question. The yes is, did I anticipate that Bitcoin will reach these financial feats? Absolutely. We have presentations that we were giving to our early investors back in 2015, predicting these types of price runs for Bitcoin and these
So
forecasts.
you did predict this back then?
And people involved at $200 a coin back in the earlier days. So we did predict that. However, what would cause the price to rise to those levels was the world looking around for a pen, which is the token, Bitcoin, to write on this piece of paper that we call a ledger, which is the blockchain, right? So if the whole world's out there looking for a pen because it's useful, it is very easy to simulate where the price can go, what industries would be impacted by this, what kind of trade and commerce we can have on this system. However, we've achieved these price points, but the technology has never really been utilized, apart from hot potato passing speculative investment from one investor to the other investor. So to simplify it down a bit, Bitcoin can only process 4 transactions a second, okay? That's 350,000 transactions per day. We have 7.5 billion people on the planet. We don't even all get a transaction per day. So as a payment system, why is this useful? As a data transfer system, why is this useful? It's not. The narrative that has evolved in this space has been one that latches and attaches to people's emotion towards government and big business and banks. The narrative that has been growing for decades is can't trust banks, can't trust government, but we've never been in a position where we could do something about it until Bitcoin came along and took these feelings that we all feel and gave us something that we can focus our energy towards. But that also means it's created an environment where many people at mass are quite easy to trick because they have bought a narrative that this is digital gold and it's digital gold that will accrue value in the minds of government and banks. And although people can't explain why 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 anymore, meaning 350,000 transactions per day, 7.5 billion people on the planet, we don't get one transaction each. How is this going to help humanity? We have to ignore that because the narrative is they attach to our emotion, which is governments are bad, banks are bad, Bitcoin gold, buy, 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 buy. There's no real logic behind it. So it has this value today, but it doesn't deserve the value that it has today. And that's where I guess the deeper conversation is that can be unpacked.
Yeah, so where do you think the cap is on that value then? Because there are only a certain number of Bitcoins in existence that can be purchased, right? So once they've all been bought up and everyone's trying to make transaction with Bitcoin, hypothetically, how do we then continue to see a rise in the value of Bitcoin if it doesn't have any more capacity to be traded on a daily basis?
And that's such a brilliant question. And that question, there's no one in the space that can answer that question truthfully, right? Without selling you some hype dream about governments, politics, and digital gold's good, right? And so your sentiment of trying to piece together, like, where's the logic behind what's going to get it to that and take it to the next level? I assure you, don't rack your brain. It's not there. It's not there. Okay, and that encapsulates 98% of the cryptocurrency space. However, with what I'm saying is the true innovation of Bitcoin is it took this, a piece of paper, which has existed for thousands of years as a piece of technology, and it digitized it and it made it public. Now, the power of making a piece of paper public is that this resolves one of the core fundamental issues of when human beings do business. If you and I enact in a property deal, we will need to have a witness present to witness that we have signed this deal. If there's ever a dispute, witness is brought to the stand and it's an adjudication process, right? So if we make this piece of paper public, that makes the whole world the witness immediately. So then you can automate contracts because the whole world is the witness. And this is how we're having like NFTs and art and all of these things being generated on top of this ledger, because I don't need to have a human being in the office in my person to agree a deal and let that deal take place immediately. So the question is okay, well, if this is the blockchain technology, what is the pen that allows me to write on a piece of paper? So in Bitcoin's case, this pen, as you adequately said, is 47,000 euros. So this is like the diamond encrusted Cartier gold pen that everyone thinks is amazing and very impressive. And you want to do your Instagram flossing because you own a Bitcoin and you've got a $47,000 euro diamond encrusted pen. However, what makes why would that Cartier pen be useful if it doesn't have ink? And this is what I mean with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's ink can only allow to be used 3 to 4 times a second, it means the ink is clumped up, right? Now, in terms of if I give this clumped up diamond encrusted Cartier pen to an artist, what image would I get? What accuracy would I get? It would look like a Mr. Men picture, right? If I give this pen to someone and it doesn't have clumped up ink, then I can get a Mona Lisa.
So
basically,
are you saying that this is all perceived value then? And it's just because perception is the only reality ultimately. So
perception is the reality until you have an event that changes mass perception. An example, right now, the mass perception would be UFOs don't exist, okay? Until one's hovering over Times Square, and then mass perception upgrades, right? And then reality is changed because of mass perception. So we're gonna have that moment in the cryptocurrency space because mass perception right now is digital gold. And what I'm saying about this pen needing to be useful, people aren't paying attention to that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's influenced by the media and social media a lot, isn't it? Like Elon Musk invests in Bitcoin, everyone buys it, the price literally goes up overnight. Do you think that something like that can literally just send it crashing down?
Yeah, well, Elon Musk is an interesting one because Elon Musk is a genius. Elon Musk knows 2 plus 2 does not equal Jello pudding. But Elon Musk promoting Bitcoin is basically saying 2 plus 2 equals Jello pudding. Because he knows 350,000 transactions can't facilitate 7.5 billion people on the planet. So him saying Tesla's now accepting Bitcoin as a mechanism of payment is nothing more than a branding and marketing exercise, because you can't build anything that is useful on it. Now, there's reasons why that has been the case over the last 12 years. It's been actually deliberate that the world doesn't realize that you can use this technology in this way, because fundamentally what this piece of paper is with Bitcoin is it becomes a mirror to humanity, which basically says, if you have a negative intent, you can use this ledger and you can use this pen, but the world will see you. If you have a positive intent, this now becomes a selling point for your business because honesty is going to be a unique selling point. And again, the world can see you. So how we're using it with Gravity is we're building a financial ecosystem, a bank on top of Bitcoin to show the world that you can have an honest financial environment. You can have an honest, solvent, verifiably solvent environment. And that's the difference between talking about these things and allowing people to experience the difference. And if what I'm saying is truly accurate, then there's a reason why the establishment, governments, banks, big business, have not wanted the world to know that this mirror exists in its true form. They would rather pump the price up, use their celebrity assets to pump the price up, to detract the world away from the true promise, which is this is a mirror. And if you commit crime, the whole world will be able to see what it is that has been committed. So instead, the narrative had to change because the status quo stood to lose too much if this was implemented too quickly. And that is really what's been going on in this space. So yeah, make a fortune, you can make a fortune, but understand that these are short-term things, it's short-term logic. And if you want to build real value, pay more attention to the BSV community, which is Bitcoin SV, is what we are building Gravity on, and not about branding or my plumbing's better than Ethereum's plumbing or my plumbing's better than Bitcoin plumbing. I'm not interested in that. It should just be about what technology genuinely works and what pen allows an artist to create a Mona Lisa.
So
and there's only one does that.
For somebody that's never invested in Bitcoin or never used Bitcoin, they should look at this as a short to mid-term investment as opposed to something that's going to change their life over the course of 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I would strongly, and consider my position and my history. I've been in this since 2015. I would not recommend anyone invest in BTC Bitcoin as a medium or long-term investment. I think now it is at its most risky by far. It has very systemic vulnerabilities that are soon to be exposed. Unfortunately, these will require legal cases to push ahead, which are already being enacted in order for it to be completely resolved. But once these things are resolved, the narrative of there's no UFOs, right? Until you see one in Times Square. That Times Square UFO moment is coming, and I'll anticipate it will be within the next 12 months, 18 months maximum. And then people are going to realize the fallacy and the values can just implode on itself. But that's energy. Where does that energy go? Well, the world still needs this technology because the world having a mirror changes the subject matter of what the next chapter of humanity looks like.
And how would that affect things like inflation and interest rates? If people change the way that they invest in things or change the currency that they're using?
Well, inflation and interest are byproducts of the central bank system that we have today.
Exactly.
Right?
So how's that going to change?
What Bitcoin can do is allow these systems to be minted on top of Bitcoin. It's not going to fix fractional reserve banking. It's not going to fix these things. What it will do is it will allow us to see how much are you minting and how are you managing what it is that you have minted, your fractional reserve ratio. Are you having a healthy fractional reserve ratio? So a healthy one would be, if I've got $1 billion handed to me by my depositors, I can loan out $9 billion off that $1 billion, which is still absurd, but banks can legally do this, right? So they're creating 9 billion of value out of thin air, and then this is the additional credit in the system, okay? But before the last crisis, banks went 50 leverage, 100 leverage. They went way above what the recommended rate was. Well, how did we know that happened once Lehman Brothers went bust? Once Northern Rock went bust?
Too late, right? Once everyone.
Why? And why is that? Because the auditing process takes too long. Banks are audited quarterly, right? Or annually, which means we got to wait. And then when they do their reports, we got to look into it and see, are you guys solvent? But do you even know if what you're reading is truly factual? Because their accountants who they lobby with, etc., would have maybe helped them cook the books, because they've got 3 months to get those documents prepared before their investors and the public see them. With what we're building, our 3-month window goes down to 10 minutes because we're going to be audited effectively every 10 minutes because we're going to be audited by the blockchain.
Transparency all of the time on a consistent basis.
All of the time.
And what about if I'm new to this and, for example, I want to invest in Ethereum as opposed to Bitcoin? What's the difference? Is there any difference?
Yeah, so arguably I'll say Ethereum is a better investment than Bitcoin in terms of BTC. Because Ethereum's got a really booming and growing economy on it. It's got a very creative economy on it. You've got a lot of artists, a lot of developers building cool things on Ethereum. But a big fundamental.
Facilitate Ethereum as well?
No, and I'm going to just get onto the reasoning as to why next.
Okay.
Because Ethereum, in order to mint an NFT on Ethereum, this is the crazy thing that's going on right now. So Steve Aoki, a very famous artist, he just sold a piece for $888. $888,000 earlier on this week, just one piece of digital art. Now, so artists are now flooding towards Ethereum because they want to effectively assign a logbook to their digital art, right? So just like if you buy, what NFTs are, non-fungible tokens, it's like, if you buy a car is more valuable because of a logbook, right? If you sell it with a logbook, you're going to get more value. The reason being is a logbook gives you history of ownership, right? So what we've done in this crypto space is we can now build a digital logbook for any item, physical or non-physical. So this has now created a boom in terms of artists who now are creating art, digitizing it, verifying that there's only one of, say, 100 pieces. There's only 100 pieces. This is one of 100 pieces. And that has now created rarity that the industry is going crazy for right now. Okay. Now, if I minted 100 tokens on Ethereum, it will cost me about $4,000 or $5,000 in fees, because the network, due to transactions, it makes everyone competing over space to get in the blockchain. So you're going to spend about $5,000. Most artists don't have that upfront investment to then sell their art. With what we're doing with Gravity, if you mint 100 NFTs, it will cost you $1. That's the difference between having a stable foundation that actually works and will continue to work, which means I, as a business, can forecast my business. It's like, if you go to a property viewing, right, whether you're renting or whether you're buying, okay, you want to see what the kitchen looks like, you want to see what the bathrooms look like, the bedrooms, you want to see the garden, you want to see if it's got a balcony, it's got an attic, it's got a basement. These are the things that I most certainly have always looked at when I go view a property. I can't remember the last time I asked the letting agent or the sales agent, what's the brand of the plumbing, right? And what's the capacity of the plumbing? I assure you, this whole space for 12 years has just spoken about plumbing. The part where we're getting to now is people just want to experience a house. I'm here to buy a house. I just need to know that, I'm sorry to be crude here, when I take a shit, it flushes and it works, right? And what we're doing in this space is we are arguing over our plumbing, and we're using plumbing that actually doesn't even work, which is why it rises to the surface and people are speaking about it. Our whole narrative here with Gravity and what we're building is, look, you guys just need to create, it needs to be effective, almost no cost of creation. There needs to be continued very little cost of creation. The plumbing is just behind the scenes, and this is the house and this is the environment that we're all gonna live in and working now. And that's why not Ethereum, because I can't create that environment, because if I do this on top of Ethereum, I'm gonna be having nerdy conversations about plumbing for the rest of my life. And no one wants to do that. People in crypto want to do that, and we've done that for 12 years. But if I'm now speaking to Muscle and Health magazine, we're approaching mainstream, right? And we shouldn't be talking about plumbing anymore. We should just be talking about the house and the experience. And that's why we can't incorporate Ethereum. And Ethereum is going to continue to have these problems, because eventually people will get tired of speaking about plumbing, and they're just going to go to a house that just works when they flush.
Okay, understood. But just to backtrack a little bit, as somebody who maybe is interested in buying one Ethereum, for someone who knows nothing about cryptocurrency and they see it's 1,500 quid or whatever it is at the moment, is that a good mid to long term investment at the moment? No? So don't basically don't invest in cryptocurrency and expect to buy a house with it in 2025, which is what people are talking about, isn't it? They're all getting way overexcited.
Genuinely, if you do your own research on BSV, it's the biggest investment opportunity, I think, of a lifetime. And bear in mind, I was offering Bitcoin to investors at $200 5 years ago. At this moment that we're in right now, by the way, BSV is 200, it's less than $200, it's $180. That is the real version of Bitcoin, and the only one that can scale to the world. Bitcoin, that's what we're building Gravity on. Bitcoin Satoshi's vision. So it's the vision as per the founder of this whole space, with the only technology that can handle the world's needs today. We can do not 3-4 transactions a second. We can do 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 a second. So, and that project right now is $180. Okay, I don't want to give people investment advice. I'm encouraging people to actually think I'm crazy, but interested enough to go and do your own research and validate if I'm crazy or not. And if you go through your own honest discernment process, you'll come to the same conclusions. The world needs a system that will allow anyone on the planet, artist or nerdy developer, to be able to pick up a pen and create. The only one that can do that, and the only pen that is valuable from a utility standpoint, is Bitcoin SV. And the get rich quick stuff has never been my thing. So if you want to trade cryptos, you can make an incredible amount of money. So I don't say to people, don't trade, but that's very short term. But if you're trading, then it then becomes a subject of, what do I do with my trading profits? That's when you become an investor. that's when you need to research differently. And if you want to have a genuine stake in this space, that's going to have long-term viability, that the whole world's eventually going to implode and go towards this solution, it's Bitcoin SV. And everything that we're doing as a company is all about supporting that project.
Okay, so if someone needs further advice or they want to know how to invest in BSV, how do they do that? Can they go to you?
Yeah, so Gravity, best place UK and Europe to buy and sell Bitcoin SV and BTC today. We have an army of content on our Bitstocks Media YouTube channel.
What's the channel? How do people find it? So we can put a link.
Yeah, just go to YouTube and just type in Bitstocks Media. There's a really good series on there I recommend for people who are new to the space. It's called the Sight series, where I just narrate through. It's a 12-episode series, and each episode focuses on some aspect of the financial system and our societal complex, that the challenges that we're experiencing in these aspects can be resolved with Bitcoin at scale. So that's a really educational, experience-based piece of content. And we've got lots of podcasts with some really interesting entrepreneurs who are building really interesting things. And by the way, this hat I'm wearing right now is an NFT. So this is the first
Twitch.
Yeah. So this is Twitch. This is the
Twitch. Okay.
This is the first NFT on Bitcoin. It cost me $200 to buy one of the first 100, but they sold out within minutes. And this hat right now, if anyone wants to buy it, is actually listed at $369,000. So these hats are now trading for quite a bit of money.
I'll give you $369 if you want. $369,000.
But this hat, in terms of minting this hat, the technology that we're using is infinitely cheap and will always be infinitely cheap. So the tech is there. We're proving that we can do all of the things that Ethereum, all of these other projects can do, and we could do it for a fraction of the cost, and it's always going to be that way. So Bitstocks Media, and just go to bitstocks.com, and we've got quite a few ebooks and educational content on there as well. But ultimately, to experience Bitcoin SV, Gravity is why we've built it. And we've got a plethora of things and updates coming out over the next few months. That's just going to be a huge game changer. And the whole focus is
live now. Is Gravity already up and running? Yeah.
You can use Gravity today. Yeah, you can use Gravity today and log in to Gravity and sign up an account today.
Awesome.
And I highly recommend doing it. In about 4 to 6 months, it might be quite difficult to get an account because what we're planning is just going to go boom. So I highly recommend that people get ready and sign up an account now while it's easy, because later on it might be a bit difficult to get a Gravity account because of what we're planning.
So it's Bitstocks Media, it's BSV, it's get a Gravity account. I'm going to do all of these things. And if I'm not Elon Musk by 2025...
You can pick up the phone, you can take it up with me.
Okay, listen, I've got one final question that I would just love you to take a punt on, because I know everyone would love your opinion on this. What is the sky high peak price that Bitcoin's going to hit, as in BTC, before this bubble bursts?
I reckon it's got a good shot at 100K.
100K.
100K. And this is what I mean. I'm very practical and realistic, right? I despise ultimately what the BTC technology has become, but also in the landscape of where the market is right now and things like Tether, etc., and also the huge US stimulus that's going on. I think it's created a perfect storm for the BS to have an amazing last couple of tracks to the Bitcoin album. And that's what I reckon we are. I reckon we're in the last couple of tracks in the Bitcoin album. One of those tracks might be 100K, but I think the final track might be 1K.
Whoa, okay. But I mean, that could happen literally overnight, right? So how do people know when to get out if they've invested in Bitcoin? Is there any...
This is why I really emphasize you must understand the fundamental premise as to what makes this technology useful in the first place. because if human consciousness is upgrading, if we're starting to understand through experience that this technology doesn't work, and I assure you, this NFT craze is going to expose this, because the only thing that the mainstream cares about is experience. Can I go into a house and flush the toilet, yes or no? The only time that you're worried about your plumbing is if there's a problem, and then you call a plumber. Otherwise, I don't want to know. But we're getting to that point where people are going to start trying to flush their toilet and it's not working. That's when people will be like, what's this technology about? Why is it 50K? Why is it 100K? Why is it 80K? And then voices like mine who've been saying to people for years, look, like, we're getting to this moment. And not only are we getting to this moment, I've built the solution so you don't even have to experience this anymore. That's when you're going to have the $200 version of Bitcoin go shh, and the potentially $100,000 version of Bitcoin just, there could be a flippening effect.
How long do you reckon before that starts to happen?
So my time horizon, I anticipate that happening realistically within the next 2 years. So it's not, oh, you have to immediately do it now. But to not have a price exposure on SV, considering it's the only one that can deliver, and it's $180 for a plethora of reasons that we're not going to get into today. To not have an exposure at this point when I'm wearing the first NFT hat because of this technology, that is $180. I will actually go out as far as to say, if you're in this space and you don't have an exposure in SV, you're being financially irresponsible.
Wow. Okay. Big statement. Big statement. We're going to keep that on record and we're going to play it back in 2 years' time.
Mint it on the blockchain, put it on the blockchain so it's immortal forever.
Totally.
I'm so confident about that statement, you would have believed.
Wow. What invaluable advice for people. Like, this is so cool. Thank you so much. I am going to go and follow all of the steps that you've given, and I'll thank you later because I'm pretty sure you're right. You look so convincing.
Absolutely. It's the same strategy that we're all employing here at the company. We've built our infrastructure on top of it. I'm building a company on top of it. So if you're building a company, you need to be able to forecast your company. If I can't forecast the company, if my land has an earthquake, right? And then my house falls in between the cracks, which is why you can't really build companies on these other technologies, apart from exchanges that allow you to just send money to and from these exchanges.
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense. And I think that's clarified a lot of things for a lot of people, because Bitcoin is something that people are just getting way overexcited about collectively, and they don't actually know why. They just see the price going up and think, oh, I'm going to buy into this. It's the next thing, and I must own Bitcoin. So yeah, thank you so much for clarifying so many things. And we will touch in with you, if it's all right, in a few months to see how things are going with Bitcoin, how things are going with Gravity. I'm going to sign up today. I'm really excited about this now. And I'm sure a lot of other people will as well. I've lost your voice.
We'll welcome you on board, and all your audience will welcome you guys on board. It's going to be huge. We've got amazing things coming. But hopefully the message I just want people to take away is, don't take my word as gospel. I speak in confidence because I know I speak my truth. But ultimately, you have to take them as my truth right now. Mm-hmm. Go off, do your own research, do your own discernment, and see if your truth resonates with my truth. And if it does, come and join us. Great. We've built a house for you to welcome you guys in. If not, continue with the experiences elsewhere. But I'm very confident you will eventually come around to this view, period, just because of fees, expenses, and you can't flush your toilet, ultimately.
Okay, let's all keep our toilets flushing. So one last time, it's the website, please, the YouTube.
Bitstocks.com/gravity to sign up. Our YouTube is Bitstocks Media, and my personal contact information, Instagram best is at BTC Hudson, and also Twitter at BTC Hudson as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No worries, Danny. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.